Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself today. I am really excited today because we are going to be talking about some very important discussion. So I really want us to share this link today because this discussion is very important. It affects every one of us. Every one of us, especially those of us on the continent of Africa. We get to experience the worst part of this particular discussion or this particular topic we're going to be discussing today. We are doing something different today. Today we are not on Facebook Live, but we are on YouTube. We're broadcasting on YouTube today. So I just want us to give ourselves about a minute or two so we can invite our friends and our loved ones to join us. We're going to be posting the link from YouTube onto Facebook in a minute. So please invite a friend to invite a friend to invite a friend to be a part of this discussion, because it's going to be a very exciting one. Yes. I am making sure that we have our link on YouTube as well. So those who want to join in the discussion can also do that from YouTube. This is a new thing we're doing. Today is going to be the first. So hopefully this will go well with us. And moving forward, we probably are going to be doing it this way. So if you join us, as I said, you can invite a friend. I think the link is posted on YouTube, if I am not mistaken. Okie dokie. All right. Without much ado, we are going to be zooming into the discussion today, because as I said, it's going to be an exciting one, and we don't intend to waste much time. And this is going to be probably a couple of series. We're going to be talking about this for a longer period of time, as I can tell, because this discussion cannot be done in a day or in one particular discussion, because it's a very broad topic when we're talking about corruption in Africa. And as we always say, just before we start, let me do our usual disclaimer. Creativity and inventions are not done by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. I want to repeat, creativity and inventions are not by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. So it doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter your background. If you educate your mind, you would be able to create, you would be able to invent. And then again, as we always say, the things we discuss here, especially the negative things we talk about in Africa, does not mean that it only happens in Africa. It's a human attribute. So anywhere you find human beings, they're bound to rear their ugly heads. Some of this negativity, corruption, all those negative stuff we talk about here, we discuss them to find solutions. You find them everywhere on the face of the earth. The difference is that when you go to some other parts of the world, they have structured their systems. They've set up systems to be able to deal with some of these issues. So that is the only difference. But when you come to our part of the world, we don't even have systems to deal with the issues in the first place. We don't have principles, basic foundational principles to be able to help us deal with these issues. So that is why we're trying to create the awareness, educate ourselves, so we'll be able to create these basic principles in order to help us set up systems, functional systems that would deal with some of these issues. So when we talk about corruption, it does not mean it only happens in Africa. It happens everywhere in the world. But we are talking about the ones going on in Africa because that is where it affects us the most. So when you hear us talking about some of these things, don't think that it's just Africa and the rest of the world don't know corruption or they don't see corruption. That's not true. It happens everywhere. But we are going to limit this particular discussion to Africa. If you look at the topic we posted, it says that let's fix Ghana/Africa now, confronting the cancer of corruption in Africa, the cancer of corruption in Africa. And to be honest with you, when I was doing the research into this particular topic, I was taken aback. I know some of the things I've heard, I've seen some of the things, but it made me, or it reaffirmed that concept or the understanding that corruption is really a cancer eating the African. Sorry about that. It's really a cancer eating the African community up. It is actually devastating the African community. I know when we talk about corruption, most times the moment you talk about corruption, people think about taking money. That's the first thing that comes into mind. We will be talking about corruption vis-a-vis our culture or our traditions as Africans, because I hear people giving excuses as, some of the things are gifts. They're not bribe. You're not bribing the person. The person just said it's a gift. So take that gift for yourself or take that gift for your family. So in the African culture, giftings are part of our system. I want you to know, or it will interest you to know, that giftings or gifts are part of every human system, every human institution. Every human setup has a system of giving and giftings. Okay, so we will talk about that vis-a-vis the African cultural setup and all that stuff. And as we go along, we may also get some resource persons who will be talking about some of these things, corruptions and all that stuff. So it's going to be an interesting one. I see Miss Hagen joining us. I just want to chip in this. She also has a wonderful program, and I want everybody to support that program. because like I said, we don't have too many of these positive programs to help us build our mindset and build our systems. So anytime we find such programs, we want to make sure that we support such programs to be able to help our community because it is needed. All right, to continue, when we talk about corruption, most times people think about money. But as we discuss this particular topic here, you understand that it goes beyond just money changing hands. It goes beyond people giving bribes. It goes beyond people taking bribes. It is a very broad topic. One may ask, what is corruption? And I hear a whole bunch of definitions given to corruption. I am actually going to narrow it down to the corruption or to the definition I have given to corruption. And I say it is the denigration of life by the poor mind. It is the denigration of life by the poor mind. That is the definition I have given to poverty, corruption, sorry. It is the denigration of life by the poor mind. And as we go along, I would discuss, I would explain that. So people might be asking, does poverty entrench itself, or is it only seen does corruption entrench itself, or is it only seen in areas of poverty? Yes and no. I would explain that. You see, when we talk about poverty, we are not talking about the lack of resources. That is not poverty. I just want us to be stretching our minds here today. As you all know, on this platform, we don't claim to have it all, but we want to challenge ourselves to learn. And I hear people saying poverty is a state of mind, which is true. It's the mind that lacks understanding of human existence and defines our existence by the measure of material gains. If you want to write it, I'm going to repeat it. You can write it. Poverty is the mind that lacks understanding of human existence and defines our existence by the measure of material gains. So if we take poverty, if we define poverty this way, then it tells us that it is not lack of resources. So somebody could have material wealth or material gains, but the person might be suffering from poverty. That person might be poor. Think about it. We're going to be stretching our minds here. Have you asked yourself, why would rich people be caught up in corruption? Why would rich people will still be grabbing monies that does not belong to them? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about the fact that some people are so rich, they should not be caught up in this concept or in this system of corruption or in this system of grabbing stuff that does not belong to them, or stealing stuff, better still, from other people, either the state, individuals, or wherever. So poverty is not the lack of resources, because some of the people who even steal more and they crave for more material things are people who have material things. They have them in abundance. They have resources, but they still want to steal. They still want to crave. They would do anything. They will kill. They don't care. They would do anything to amass more material stuff. So I want us to be thinking today, poverty has nothing to do with lack of resources. Again, as I said, if you have any question, if you have any suggestions, if you have any dissenting opinions, they're all welcome. We don't shy away from dissenting opinions on this platform. We embrace and we encourage people to challenge whatever we table here. And we do that respectfully. That is why we don't argue on this platform. And every now and then, I keep explaining, argument is when you have an entrenched position and you want to shove it down somebody's throat. We discuss on this platform. Discussion is when you have an open mind and you want to share your opinion and take somebody's opinion as well. And we would sieve it and get the best out of it. So that is what we do on this platform. So if you have any discussions, if you have anything to say, don't shy away from saying it. But we don't entertain insult on this platform. Insults don't solve problems. I've never seen anywhere, or I've never heard anywhere that insults solved problems. Calm minds discussing problems bring about solutions. All right, so you can cut in if you have the link is posted all over. So if you have the link and you want to contribute, or you want to ask a question, or you want to differ from the submissions we've made, you can go ahead and do that. All right, so poverty, as I said, is not the lack of resources, it's not the lack of money. So sometimes you hear people saying, oh, let me use Africa as an example. Africa is wallowing in poverty, so let us go and help. You see, sometimes you cut on your TV and you see some of these philanthropic organizations asking for funds, asking for food, asking for whatever clothing to support it and to help some African kids or some African countries, and all in the name of poverty. But I want us to stretch our minds today. If we're talking about poverty being lack of resources, can you please tell me where on earth do we have resources in abundance other than Africa? Where on earth do we have resources in abundance other than Africa? As a matter of fact, the African continent is a self-sustaining continent. It has every resource you could think of to sustain itself. And yet, we're still going through the problems we're going through. So it tells you that poverty is not lack of resources. It is the mind that lacks understanding of human existence and wants to define everything by material gains. That is poverty. So when we have that understanding of poverty, then it will set the tone or the stage for our discussion of corruption in Africa. I came across this information and I want to read it, so it will not be like I'm just sitting here concocting stories and this is a research and a report that was made. This is the Mbeki report that was made. in 2012. And I just want to read a little portion I highlighted during the course of my research into this particular topic. He said, and I read, approximately 7% of the continent's gross domestic product, GDP, is lost through illicit flows. I want to repeat this portion. I'm going to read it very slow, because I just want us to understand, hear and listen and understand. It says approximately 7% of the country's GDP, gross domestic product, is lost through illicit flows. And this significantly reduced public spending. And then I came down a little bit and found this. It says on illicit financial flows from Africa, that is the Mbeki report, indicated that Africa loses $50 billion every year. $50 billion every year. Beloved, this is a very serious, very delicate, very sensitive, very emotional issue we are talking about here. $50 billion with a B, not an M, coming out of Africa. The place where we claim is poverty-stricken. Think about it. The poverty-stricken continent or the poverty-stricken people are losing $50 billion every year. So come again if you tell me poverty is lack of resources. $50 billion every year. It says illicit flows out of the continent. And so I just want us to prepare our minds for this particular discussion. It is going to be emotional. We're going to be discussing and be talking about some of the impacts. Some of the impacts of corruption in Africa. Lives lost, properties lost, visions shattered or dreams shattered because of this cancer. Okay, the future of the continent, I'm not even going to specifically talk about countries, the future of the continent, especially the sub-Saharan African continent, is hanging in a balance because of this cancer. And sometimes I get so mad when I hear people talking about methods of which corruption or this cancer is uncovered. I'm not going to go there today. But I just want us to look at the picture. If every year $50 billion is being siphoned from the African continent, every year, can you think about what that money can do if it stays within Africa? And you see the corruption, as I said, we're going to be talking about it in details. You realize that it's not just the so-called African continent that indulges in this corruption. It's being aided by the Western world. Most of the corruptions going on in the African continent is being aided by the Western world. Some of our crazy people who were looting the covers of Africa were the best friends of the Western world. Some of our insane politicians, some of our insane society managers who are behaving like they don't even have brains in between their ears, were the best friends of the Western world. So when we talk about corruption, it is bigger than Africa. Today, I just want us to tease ourselves and begin to stretch our minds and begin to ask questions. Okay? So when you see the potholes in your country, when you see the hospitals with no beds in your country, when you see the schools under trees with no learning materials in your countries, ask yourself, what can $50 billion do for the community without potable drinking water? And the 50 billion is just the one that has been identified, or the one that can be measured. I'm pretty sure. Oh yes, I am pretty sure it is more than that. But let's even limit it to the 50 billion. So as you travel through your countries and you see those untarred roads, the potholes, those villages without hospitals, the schools under trees, no teachers, no learning materials, the hospitals with no beds, injustices in the judiciary system where people are being incarcerated for nothing. Begin to ask yourself, what could $50 billion a year do to help straighten that ill? What could $50 billion do to help put beds in hospitals? You see, when a leader pops up in a chaotic environment, okay, he or she makes right what is wrong in the system by first opening the minds of the people to understand the problems they're facing. You see, Magufuli from Tanzania did not go about borrowing for 5 years. And yet he was building schools, hospitals, roads, railways. Think about it, name it, and he was doing them all. Think about it, he was doing them all. Why? Because he realized that there is so much resources within the system that needs to be mobilized. You see, that needs to be mobilized. I'm going to end it pretty soon because I promised, especially those who are watching with data, that we're going to limit it to 30 minutes. So I'm going to run up pretty soon. You see, so what it takes to make a difference in that chaotic environment, the corrupt environment, is just a leader. And I'm pretty sure we all know who a leader is, not somebody who has people following him or her. That is the archaic definition of leadership. It's not about somebody who has influence. but it's about somebody who has an understanding of the human existence and the value of human existence, and somebody who knows what it means to be of service, or what it means to be here at this time, at this point, knowing the purpose for which you've been planted in a particular place. And so that person will begin to fulfill his or her purpose in that particular space or environment. So today, as we are teasing ourselves to begin to think deep into some of these issues, I just want you to think about this particular thing I said about the 50 billion US dollars every year going out of your community, going out of my community. So when you see the classroomless schools, bedless hospitals with even no equipment, no learning materials, when you see broken down infrastructures, begin to ask yourself, if the 50 billion, if that money were to stay in Africa, what difference would that money make? What difference would that money make? Without much ado, I just want to drop the mic here. If anybody has a question or any contribution, any suggestions, what have you? Yes, very sad listening to the statistics, my sister. I'm restraining myself not to be emotional. I'm restraining myself not to be emotional because we have a long way to go. This discussion, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We are going to start the real discussion from next week. I just want us to start thinking about some of these things. Okay? So if you have any questions, any suggestions, any opinions, we have about a minute to go. Yeah, I said 30 minutes, but we are 36. I know initially connecting us to YouTube and all that stuff took a little bit of our time. So 36 minutes, it's okay. Please forgive me. Next week, we're going to do better. And even when the discussion goes a little further, we're going to break them down on YouTube so you can watch them in segments. Okay, I understand the data is very, very expensive, and yet we need the information. So you really want to be a part of it. But then again, you're still thinking about the resources. All right. So if we don't have any questions, any contributions, or any dissenting opinions, I would want to say that next week, about the same time, 3 p.m. US time, it's definitely going to be 8 p.m. Ghana time. I believe in Britain it's going to be either 7 or 8. I'm not too sure, but it's in between there. We'll figure that out next week, and we'll send that information out. So please make sure you share the link, share to a friend, invite people to be a part of this discussion because it affects you. It affects me. My name is Nana Osei Bonsu Jr. of Africa International Organization and Certo Leadership International. And this is Leadership Academy. Thank you for being a part. We'll definitely be here next week to continue this discussion. I just want you to start thinking about some of these things and start sharing the information, inviting people to be a part of it next week So together we'll share ideas, build our minds, and build our nations. Thank you for being a part of Leadership Academy today. And I say, stay safe, protect yourself, and protect your families. Bye-bye.